All right. We're in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on the chapter called Visit to the Sinthi Brahmo Samaj. Uh, I don't know the page in the book, but in the PDF it's 535, but that is not a solid page number. And we were talking about the householders wanting to realize God and wanting to be like Janaka and realizing it. And Ramakrishna is basically telling him, yes, you can, but it's going to take a lot more than just saying
Hmm.
that you're going to be like Janaka. You know, how much austerity he did. And he goes on and he says, sages like Janaka, Vyasa, and Vashishta, they lived in the world after attaining knowledge, right? So after they came to know who they were, they stayed in the world. They didn't leave the world. This is what a bodhisattva is, or one of these eternal companions of the divine incarnation, like the direct disciples of Jesus. Some of them came with when Jesus came as Ramakrishna. They came with that same band, some of them, and some of them who were with Krishna came with Ramakrishna. And so you get uh, you just get this handful of people who are in love with humanity and who have a heart for humanity and are not taking their own realization. They're not having the realization and running to the loka. They're taking their realization and coming back, and out of a compassion. And so it's a very beautiful thing. And so the sub judge, after being told this, he says, "Well, how can we know that we have knowledge?" Right? So he wants to know. So you tell me I have to go get knowledge and then I can come into the world, but I have to know God first. So he's like, how will I know? And Master says, one has knowledge when one does not see God anymore at a distance. One does not think of him anymore as he. He becomes this. Then he is seen in one's own heart. God dwells in every man. He who seeks God realizes him. Right? So there's the promise, just flat out, flat out. He who seeks God will find him. Right? So it's a promise to us. This is a guaranteed thing. And this is why what's been changing my practice attitude for the last couple of years is this understanding that whether or not we're making it is not anymore an issue at all. The fact that it already exists within us, but we haven't identified with it, is also a very interesting piece of information to hold on to. And the idea of just in our practice of surrendering into it, letting go of ourself and opening up to the divine to do the work within ourselves. And so the master is saying that when you get knowledge, God is no longer outside of you. When you think of God, you no longer think of God up there or God over there, right? You don't see him, you don't think of him anymore as he, right? So he disembodies as a such. He keeps his form. You still think of him as Ramakrishna or as Jesus or Buddha, but that form exists within you initially. And you don't refer to him as that, right? Because he's not other. It's a very intimate growing. So when you know that he's not outside of you, when you know that he is within you, that he is not separate from you, and you see him in your own heart, and then you begin, because of that, you begin to see him in everybody's heart. And that's when the fun begins, I think. I think that would be amazing. I think that's when the real, I can't think of anything but a party. I mean, just when you have that, oh my God, that'd be amazing to have that knowledge. And can you imagine how you'd be able to talk about it to somebody if it was filling you with that divine inebriation? What an amazing thing you would have to share with everybody. So when one has knowledge, one does not see God any more at a distance. One does not think of him any more as he. He becomes this. Then he is seen in one's own heart. God dwells in every man. He who seeks God realizes him. That's a oh wow, that's a really beautiful little collection of promises right there, of statements. The subjudge, well, sir, I'm a sinner. How can I say that God dwells in me? Master, oh, that's the one trouble with you, Brahmos. With you, it's always sin, sin, sin. That's the Christian view, isn't it? Once a man gave me a Bible. A part of it was read to me, and it was full of that one thing, sin and sin. One must have such faith that one can say, I have uttered the name of God. I have repeated the name of Rama or Hari. How can I be a sinner? One must have faith in the glory of God's name. Right, and this here, it's quite easy to see that that faith in the glory of God's name is also the faith in the salvation of God's name, the faith in the grace of God's name. You know that this is validation for us that our meditation is about arriving at an understanding of an infinite grace and learning to accept that, learning to stand on that, to count on that. Learning not to judge ourselves by our own qualities, but to judge ourselves by God's love for us. We are valuable because God loves us. We're valuable because God sees us as being worth anything that he, she has to reach us, to have us come home. So it's growing into that. It's allowing yourself to occupy that space, which is very hard to do because we know I don't deserve that. You know, just like the subjudge here, it's like, oh, well, it's pretty messy inside me. I don't think God's in there. Right? How could he be in there? So the master says, one must have faith in the glory of God's name. So he doesn't say that it's not true that you're sinful or that it's not true that you are in that condition that you are. But he does say it is your fault that you define yourself that way, that you measure yourself that way, right? And that you identify with those attributes in that way. That is all your fault. And the only way for that not to happen is through faith in that grace, to know absolutely, right, that you are the child of the divine, that this is not a favor. This is what God has wanted you to have since time immemorial. Subjudge, sir, how can we have such a faith? Master, have passionate love for God. One of your Brahmo songs says, O Lord, is it ever possible to know you without love? However much one may perform worship and sacrifice, right? So have this passionate love for God. Do you remember how we get passionate love for God? Devotion? Love? Do you remember yesterday?
Besides conquering the ego?
No, not conquering the ego. That, of course, that will happen too, but
Prayer.
anybody remember what develops devotion?
Surrendering?
Um,
Is it surrendering?
and I'm
Yeah.
not going to say no to that because
Yeah.
yes, surrender is always necessary.
Sorry.
No, remember it was doing selfless works,
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, gosh.
Sure.
right? During doing selfless works, doing
Karma
things
yoga.
for the
Doing-
sake of
doing
love
something.
alone. Yeah,
Yes.
that is what gives us. That's what builds love within us and devotion, right? And then from that love and devotion, what comes from the love and devotion? Do you remember that? I can't believe I'm being such a kindergarten teacher here. But what's love and devotion develop in you? Wisdom.
Please.
Wisdom comes from your love and your devotion, right? And so you see how all of these things work together. They're intricate keys for undoing egoism, right? So you kind of trick the ego a little bit. And I read a little talk by Ramana Maharshi this morning actually, and Ramana Maharshi was talking about how I'm not sure this has anything to do with anything, but it's a point that was really good, and I wanted to share it with you today. So here we go.
And you wonder why we can't remember anything of the text.
I remembered it.
I know. I said,
But yeah, so Ramana Maharshi was saying, he said, that we all have this idea that the ego dies as we practice spiritual life. But he says one has to be very careful because he says what actually happens is the ego actually changes its tack and starts to pretend that it is the seeker,
Mm.
right? So the ego no longer is asking you for pleasure and asking you for, all those things that it used to ask you for. Now it knows that you're watching those things, knows that those things are no longer popular. And so it hides. It goes in and it tries to become the seeker in you and the informer, the one that tells you what you need to do and how you need to go forward, right? And how to get where you're going. And so this is how the ego changes in the end. And he says, if you're not extremely careful and subtly aware, you'll miss that and you'll start becoming proud of your practice. You'll start becoming proud of your practice. You'll start becoming judgmental of others. And so all that stuff starts creeping in. So it's something to really be careful about. And so as he's talking here, that came to my mind also. It's like, yes, we need to have this love for God. So we do that through our practice of, unselfish deeds. And that gives us our devotion and our love of God. Which is kind of a really very interesting thing that would somehow lead you to God, doing unselfish work. And why would that be?
Yeah.
Because to do unselfish things, love is the only method for doing that. And love is God.
So how
Love
can you
is
get there if you haven't gotten the love of God yet, but you need it to get to the love of God?
by that well, just by all of our practice. It's the same thing. It's like you need to have a quiet mind, so you sit and practice until you get that quiet mind. You'll get a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time.
Yeah, it's what the Gita also
But
and
see,
Sorry,
Yes. Oh,
Shankara, Shankaracharya also says, start with the Karam Yoga, which then to the Bhakti Yoga and then the Jnana Yoga. So it kind of follows that trajectory.
right.
Um,
Oops. I just muted you. Sorry.
someone's child was talking.
She's still, she's
That's
still
me.
muted.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, sorry.
Okay.
I just heard somebody calling. It's like,
Yes, yes.
all right.
Mm, yeah.
So you were saying again?
Well, I
Can
was
you
just saying
repeat
that
it?
in the Gita and Shankaracharya's trajectory, also you start with the Karam Yoga, which purifies, then kind of Bhakti comes, and from the Bhakti, then you move on to the Jnana Yoga.
Yes.
So kind of says this unselfish works to the love, and then to the wisdom. So
Yeah.
pretty
It's
similar.
it's
Well, what about japa too? Because that
it's the same thing.
Bhakti,
Name of
yeah,
God. Yeah.
yeah,
The name of God.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So I have a question. Like, if I do unselfish work, my
mhm.
attention is totally focusing on the person where I'm doing unselfish work.
Okay.
So how does my attention should go towards God?
Well, you understand you need to learn to see properly, meaning that when you look at them and you're looking in their eyes, don't be thinking about them. Thinking
Mm-hmm.
about your divine beloved looking back at you, because that's the reality of it.
Yeah,
That is,
but sometimes you are so engrossed in doing things like, I mean, I work for special need kids.
uh-huh.
So when you do something for these kids, you are so engrossed in them that you tend to forget God.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to say at that point.
Maybe that is God.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
no, there has to be awareness in there. But yeah, it is difficult, but it's not optional. So whatever you need to do to work that out, you're just going to have to figure it out. So whether it's you put little notes up on the wall of your school, or you put a note on your desk that sits there, think of God, or think God, or
Mm-hmm.
something just something to remind you, or put a little buy one of these little malas in the bookstore that has, holy trinkets on it on your wrist, or I don't know, any number of ways to get yourself to remember to think of the divine, because you're doing wonderful work for those kids. But if you're not thinking of God, it's not going to be perfect work.
Mm.
There's going to be some loss in there. And so it would be a great improvement for your work with the kids to serve them with the thought of God, because that way you'll have an infinite amount of more patience.
Mm.
You'll find a greater deal of joy. You won't be having to worry about whether they appreciate you or not, or all of those things. Um, but yeah, no, it's difficult for everybody because our days go on and lots of things dance in front of the senses all day to keep us distracted in our senses. And most of us are still there, still in that place, you know. But don't be troubled.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
be troubled.
Sometimes, you get really confused about when you do these things and you think about God and you feel like you're being selfish and not focusing on the kids.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Uh, it's my inner feeling I'm sharing with you. It might be wrong.
Uh-huh.
That if I think about God at that moment, um, my focus will be shifted, and I feel that I'm doing selfish work by not focusing on the kid. You know what I mean?
I do, and you're right. It's not helpful thinking because it's not necessarily true. Because if you look at those kids and don't think of God, then you don't know who they are,
Mm,
and you don't know their nature, and you're working with guesswork. Whatever you're projecting on them, whatever your own ego projects on them, then you're going to be working with. If you look at them and see them as God, it'll be much more
mm,
difficult for anger to arise or frustration to arise, or
mm,
all of those things. And also, just if you look in the mirror yourself,
mhm,
right? This is one of those practices that I was doing for a while in Colorado. I haven't done it since I've been here, but uh, it's an interesting practice to do. You look in the mirror at your own face,
mhm.
and you look at your own eyes, right? And you try and look into your eyes in the mirror, into the person that's looking back at you in the mirror. You try to look into your eyes. When you are at the point where you're focused on your eye in the mirror, change your attention. Remove your attention from the eye in the mirror and move your attention to within yourself to where you are looking out of your eye.
Oh,
All right? So you bring
mhm,
you bring your attention back from the mirror. So you pull it out of the world of the senses, which
mhm.
is what you're doing. Pull it out of the world of senses, place it back in yourself, still thinking of God and still looking at God in the back of those eyes. Look with your own awareness of yourself within. And this is very subtle. Watch how
Yes.
your eyes change.
Oh, okay.
Watch how your eyes change when you're thinking of God and you've placed your attention within yourself, looking in the eyes of the other. There's a softness that takes over the eyes. There's
Okay.
a sweetness that moves in there. And so, we want to move in that direction. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing and how it's going. You're doing an amazing service for those kids.
Mm,
But if you want to hand those children something that will change their life, then do it while you're seeing the beloved in them, and they will never talk about another teacher loving them as much as you did. That would be the fact of it.
Can I,
thank you.
can I,
Yes,
can
Thank
I
you.
say something, Swami?
of course.
Uh, isn't it divine grace that she got an opportunity to serve those children?
Mhm.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
And I'm
it's grace. Because of grace, she has an opportunity to serve those kids. And right there, divine is right there, everywhere, right?
right. Yes. It's also divine grace that you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm,
You know, every one of us is in full grace.
mhm.
God has the things working in our life tuned to the tone, of what's most helpful for us. That's why we can say things like and practice things like in this moment, God is everywhere present and always perfect, right? Because you can only surrender to something that you find acceptable, right? And so until you do the discernment and find surrender to God to be acceptable, to be safe, for you not to feel like I felt like growing up, like I share with everybody, I was just a spoiled little kid. I was like, why do I have to do everything your way? You're supposed to be God of love, and here I have to do everything like you do. Where's that? Right? We have to wrestle these things out because it's true. So you have to come to a way of understanding God to where you understand. And so after watching it and fighting and wrestling with that for decades for myself, I finally understood that God is me perfected, right? That God is not someone else who's enforcing something else over me. God is me, and God's desire is my perfected desire. God's desire is what my pure desire is. And so my surrendering to him is me surrendering to the best me, not surrendering to an ogre in the sky. In that sense.
Maharaj, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, pronounce.
Nice.
So when you were talking about love and devotion and wisdom, it brought up something from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and it is a song that then Narendranath, so Swami Vivekananda at that time, he sang for Thakur. And I was just wondering if you can comment on that or elaborate and explain maybe. I don't truly get it. So I'm just going to quickly read that translation out.
Okay.
Uh, it says, in wisdom's firmament, the moon of love is rising full, and love's flood tide in surging waves is flowing everywhere. O Lord, how full of bliss thou art! Victory unto thee. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, mm, all that just floated me down the river a little bit. That's all that did for me. You just to think that he's being poetic, and so he's giving characteristics to the message that are framed in things that feel like the love he has, right? So when you hear Thakur describing, love's firmament as the full moon rising full, if you here in Santa Barbara, actually the most beautiful time that I saw that was on a South Pacific island called Rarotonga. And I was sitting out on the front deck of this little shack that I was staying in. And the full moon came out and was shining on all the palm trees, on all the palm leaves. And they all looked like aluminum, like they were all sculpted out of aluminum. And I sat there just watching them flutter in the wind, and truly, I wasn't thinking about God at that time because that's not where I was in my life. But I was thinking about peace, and I was thinking about beauty, and I was thinking about the softness and the completeness of that embrace of moonlight in the dark at night. And so when I hear him bringing those things up in his refrain, I just see what that love is like in his life. That moonlight is never harsh and direct and burning. You know, it's always steady and well distributed and peaceful and calm and cool and collected and beautiful. Really, and embracing, romantic. You know, and I think that love of God is deeply romantic. Look at it's Radha and Krishna and Sita and Rama and Sharada and Ramakrishna. Just every time. So this divine love is when it's described, it's going to be described in romantic terms. And you can't get more romantic than sunsets and full moons and summer nights. Is that at all what you were looking for?
No, thank you, Maharaj. I because I could never truly understand what that really, meant, or what was the intended meaning, or yeah. So
Well,
that helped.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think he's just talking about the way that realization comes upon us, or a way that realization or spiritual growth comes upon us. That it when the moon comes up here in Santa Barbara, it comes over that mountain right there. And when it first comes up, there's always just a little sliver of just bright white, that kind of just pours over. And you get just enough light where you can see the driveway. But then as it slowly keeps coming up and over that mountain, it just keeps getting more and more beautiful. The colors start changing a little bit. It turns a little bit yellow, a little bit of a pattern in the moon, right? It goes up and then the clouds start playing with it, doing different things, fuzzing the edges, hiding parts of it. And you know, I'm thinking of a Donny Osmond song. You're very lucky because I almost thought about singing it. But it's about the full moon rising. He's a teenager in love, and he's talking about the full moon rising. And so his song, very funny song about teenage love. But yeah, and so I think that's Tagore. I think Tagore's a childlike romantic. Just deeply in love, deeply in love. And so I think all of his imagery that he's going to share is going to reflect that romance. All right. So Subjudge says, Sir, how can one have such a faith? Master, have passionate love for God. One of your Brahmo songs says, O Lord, is it ever possible to know you without love? Right, which is a wonderful question, because really what it's asking is like, you are so lovable. How could I ever know you and not be lost in love? Right? And so this is something I always remind myself of, and it's what I feel so like part of if I have a mission in this world, which I'm not so sure I do, but if I do have a mission in this world, I would think for me that's what it is. It's to remind people that this horrible thing that we've created called religion is actually the very essence of beauty and love and warmth. And that in our practice of our religion, if that is not our primary experience, then we should take a serious look at what we're doing and where we're going, right? Because the watchword in Vedanta is love, freedom. And the God is a God of love. That first couple of chapters of the Bhagavatam that we read, remember, just the Lord of love. I love how they refer to Krishna that way, the Lord of love, right? And I just feel like I'm on a mission for myself to create a practice that I'm thrilled about. I want a practice that I'm giddy to sit down and do. I want a practice where I'm looking at the clock thinking, how long until 6 o'clock? To have that kind of anticipation, that kind of enjoyment and love of the beloved, the divine, that kind of faith to where it is actually affecting me as a person, when I sit and think of God. And yeah, I just think everybody should have that. Everybody should be able to start their mantra and giggle, you know?
Cool.
Yeah, and giggle because it's just, you feel mother run her fingernails up your back, you know? You feel mother come over and draw near, and suddenly in your heart, she drops you out of that. There's different states of mind, that we experience when we're meditation. And I don't know how to describe all of those. God, I haven't had all of them, obviously, most of them. But the one that I like is when you stop feeling like you're aware of yourself, separate from yourself, and you're thinking about God, which is somewhere in you, but not located. And then all of a sudden it I don't know how to describe it. It just goes flat, and you feel everything within. You feel everything undefined just you drop into a peace, and it's just a wonderful place to sit and you know to sing God's name, to think of God, and when that happens to me, I always immediately start becoming aware of all the sensations in my body, and I start applying those sensations to God working in my body. Just not that I know, not that what I have no idea if that's what's up or not. It just helps me to bring the whole thing into a unity, where I'm feeling my body and I'm interpreting all those feelings as God working. So I have this idea, as I surrender, if I think of something, if my mind gets busy, I don't get upset that my mind is busy and that it's wandering. I just immediately now have something to show Mother. I'm like, Mother, look, my mind is wandering. Look where it's going. Can you imagine? Right? And then I let it go. And so you just keep doing that. It's like everything that your mind wanders to becomes an offering, right? Whatever it goes to, you just keep offering it. Let go and offer, let go and offer, let go and offer. Yes, Ma, see, I need that work too. Oh, that would be a good place to scratch, Ma. Yes, that's a really good one over there, right? And you just sit there surrendering, opening, surrender, open, surrender, open, and enjoy. Enjoy your promised salvation. So pray to God in secret and with yearning, that you may have the passionate attachment and devotion to him. Shed tears for him. A man sheds a jug full of tears because his wife is sick, or because he's losing money, or because he's worrying about getting a job. But tell me, who ever weeps for God? Right? So it's I always read this and I was like, Thakur, that's not really fair. Because how do you just go weep for God? You just told me to shed tears for God. How do I shed tears for God if I don't have any feeling of shedding tears for God? It's like, how's that going to happen? And what he's telling you, it's another one of your invitations. Get to know him. It goes back up to that sentence there. How is it even possible to know you without love? So if you don't feel that love, you just haven't met God yet. So keep sitting with him. Keep singing his name. He will manifest slowly, gently within you in time. But for us, time is all we have. No worries, right? No worries. Pray to God in secret and with yearning, right? In secret protects you from the ego, right? It also makes it very personal, very sweet. It makes me think of Rabia's poem, where she says, all these years I've been praying to you and you've never answered back. And then I began to think, have I been using the proper name? Have I been using your right name? And she says, then I made up a nickname that only I knew. And then she says, and her last line of the poem is, that has made all the difference. Right? So that's the kind of relationship you want with God. It's a secret love. It's a sweet romance that's going on, quietly within you, but deeply within you. Trilokya, sir, where is people's leisure? They must serve their English masters, right? So this is the guy. He just like what you were saying there, Rajani. That I'm so busy. I got so many things to do. I got all these kids to serve. How am I going to do this? And so this guy's going to Ramakrishna. I have all these English masters to serve. Where's my time for developing love and devotion, for shedding a jug full of tears on God? The master, well, then give God the power of attorney. If a man entrusts his affairs to a good person, will the latter do him any harm? Right? And boy, if you want faith, this is the way to go forward. It's basically to do nothing and have faith that the divine is doing it for you and has you covered. That for me would I imagine it's going to be a while. Right? It's like we just don't have quite that faith, but that faith can be built. And I feel like if you started having faith like that, that's what Jesus was talking about when he said faith the size of a mustard seed. Once you start having a kind of faith where you can just give God everything and just say, God loves me like crazy. There's no way he's going to let me lose. I'm just not going to worry about this. Right? And you see how that's kind of a trick because already your heartstrings are starting to strum a little bit when you think about it like that. And so this is the way we go forward. Give God the power of attorney. If a man entrusts his affairs to a good person, will the latter do him any harm? With all the sincerity of your heart. Okay, now there's a tough call. With all of the sincerity of your heart, resign yourself to God, which means have nothing else that you would do with your life but God. There's nothing else. This is your joy. And drive all of your worries out of your mind. Do whatever duties he has assigned to you. The kitten does not have a calculating mind. It only cries, meow, meow. It lies in the kitchen contentedly if the mother cat leaves it there, and then only calls the mother, meow, 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 when it has the same feeling of contentment when the mother cat puts it on the soft bed of the master of the house. It only cries for its mother, right?
Yeah.
So he's basically saying, well, do your work. Do your work. If you're busy, do your work, but do your work as worship, right? Serve your masters as God. Put an altar at your desk and put your outbox on it, right? Whatever it takes. That's why, just before I joined the monastery, I was working in a accounting office in in the CSU, and I was working in an accounting office with 23 women and me. So it's sort of my samskaras to live in feminine places, I guess. But so I was doing that, and I had my mid-year evaluation came up, and so I went in and I sat with my boss, and I was like, so am I doing all right, Denise? Is there anything that I need to work on or you need to tell me? And she says, well, I count on you for that. You tell me if you're doing a good job. You tell me if there's things that you need help with. And I was like, oh, okay. And but she said she's one of the things I got more points for. I got quite a few points for. She said that that the main reason that she liked having me in the office is that I was a cohesive glue that kept everybody talking to each other.
Oh, wow.
Because I would go in, this tells you remember I was a government worker, so I had license for this, because I would go to work in the morning and I would get to the office and there were 23 cubicles, and I would stop in every cubicle because my office was all the way in the back, all the way to my office. I would stop in every single cubicle and just check in. How's your computer? Everything going all right? How's Quentin? What's going? Is your husband better yet? Right. And then just kind of go through. I wasn't being holy at the time because I wasn't spiritual. I was being social, right? Just going along, but checking in with everybody. And after I became a Vedantin, I looked back on that and I thought that was the right thing to do. You were doing the right thing with a sixth sense there, right? Because you go to the office, yes, to serve all those 23 women with their accounting and their computers helps and programs and whatnot. But what am I really there for? I'm there for love. I'm there to love these women. God put me in that office to nurture and uh, inspire and to care about 23 people that worked with me, right? And so that's why I say, if you're an accountant, remember you're only incidentally an accountant. You are actually a lover, right? And you're incidentally an accountant. So you work in your office, you serve your English masters, whoever they might be, right? But that's not why you're there. You're there to love them, right? And so as long as we keep that awareness around our lives, that we are always spiritual lovers of God first, and then incidentally all the rest, we can fit them in there. But God always has to be the first thing. So we go and work with the troubled children, you know, to worship, to love them, to give them love, to nurture them. We go to our accounting office. We go to our blah, blah, blah. Point made. All right.
Swami,
Yes.
by loving more people thoughtfully, it makes our love bigger, which has to bring us closer to God.
Okay.
Bigger love, right?
Yeah.
In some way.
Yes. No, sure. Yeah, no, if you do this, you will actually grow in love for God, no doubt about it. That's what Thakur has told us. But also, I'm not so sure that your love gets bigger as such, because you're not loving multiples. You're loving the same one in everyone.
But you may not be aware of that at the time.
Well, but you make yourself aware. That's why I'm talking about when you look at someone in the eyes, pause for a second and look for God. Thakur, I know
I
you're
was
in
just
there.
thinking about ways that you get there, you know, and some of it you were saying, well, you were doing just the right thing and you didn't even have that as a concept at the
Mhm.
time. But somehow you became a monk. Something worked, right? So
Uh,
feeling everyone to be worthwhile is kind of a primitive sense of God being within, isn't it?
and, I just wanted to be a nice guy. I was just being codependent myself, but
Okay, fine.
that was that was the truth of those days. Um, uh, but yes, no, it does indeed. It does in fact grow love for God. You begin to actually recognize God. The real process, though, is to first find your own shrine within your heart and begin doing your worship there regularly, frequently, to build up that inner atmosphere. That's the most important thing to me, I would say at this point, is to establish that shrine, to fill it with an atmosphere, and to learn to inhabit it. And then do everything else from that place, because everything else will happen naturally from that place and organically from that place. Because we always have to remember, you do not have to become a loving person. You do not have to become a nice person. What you have to do is remember that you've always been a loving person, that you've always been a nice person, and that it's only because of your uncontrolled ego that you're not always nice, that you're not always loving, right? And it's through that discernment that we let go of these faults that are covering our divine nature, and not letting it shine.
I have a
So
question,
with
Maharaj.
yes,
So if somebody is saying things that are not very nice or are hurtful, then would you would you mm, keep hearing and go to a place where in the shrine of the heart, or would you kind of say kind of make it known that those things are hurtful and not to say those things, or both?
well, both, because what happens is God is not only love, God is truth, right? And so if you're sitting there talking to somebody and they're being rude to you, if you're in a spiritual state, if you are in a state of sitting in the shrine and talking to that person, you can very easily be extremely honest with them and say, "Oh, ouch. Wow, that really hurt me. Why did you say that?" Right? And you react in a totally human way about it, with no ego trying to cover it up or trying to retaliate or trying to one up them in an insult. But you're just like, "Oh, bro, wow, that hurt. Did I do something to cause that?" So you take that route, you become superhuman. And if they don't respond to that, then you have to determine if they're your boss, that you have this set of choices. If they're just a coworker, you have these sets of choices. But basically, you start figuring out a way that you can salute them from a distance. Like you'll leave you won't give them their Valentine's card directly. You'll just leave it on their desk. Right. So like that. So we still hold ourselves to that standard, but we don't put ourselves into a difficult situation unnecessarily. Yeah.
Thank you, Bharat.
So I'm just going to read this whole paragraph here because I just love what he says here. Well, then give God the power of attorney. If a man entrusts his affairs to a good person, because that's what you're doing, not just a good person, to God, which I'd hope he's more than a good person, right? So if you entrust your affairs to a good person, will the latter do him any harm? Well, with all of the sincerity of your heart, resign yourself to God. Resign yourself to love. That's not, it's, if you think of it in that sense, it's a lot easier. Resign yourself to love. What a beautiful thing. I'm surrendering to love, right? Resign yourself to God and drive all of your worries out of your mind. Why? Because you've given them all to the divine. And your faith is, well, he's taking care of this. I don't have to worry about it. Right? So you drive them all out of your mind. Do whatever duties he has assigned to you. All right? So there's a clue even there. Do your duties is what we normally think, but don't forget that he assigned them to you. Right? So you keep that spiritual mindset. Do the duties, but these are not non-spiritual things that can distract you from God. Don't define it that way. These are duties that God has given you. He has assigned them to you to worship him with, right? And so you start making efforts in that way. How do I turn this spreadsheet into a worship? By making it the best web spreadsheet you've ever done. Making sure there's no mistakes on it, making sure the design is beautiful, making sure that it's everything that it was supposed to be and fulfills all the requirements, right? And then you print it out nicely and turn it in. Worship, like that. The subjudge, sir, we are householders. How long should we perform our worldly duties? I didn't realize that was a choice. How long should we perform our worldly duties? Master, surely you have duties to perform. You must bring up your children, support your wife, provide for her in case of your death. If you don't, then I shall call you unkind. Sages like Sukadeva had compassion. He who has no compassion is no man. Subjudge, well, how long should one support one's children? Master, as long as they have not reached their majority. Does that mean their age of ascent, whatever it is? Okay. As long as they've not reached their majority. When the chick becomes a full-grown bird and can look after itself, then the mother bird pecks it and doesn't allow it to come near her. Everyone laughs. This is a good thing to learn, though. I've seen a few families that chick is awfully big and fat and able to take care of itself and is still sitting in that bedroom playing video games. I'm like, hey, where's mama? Right? How long should one support one's children? As long as they've not reached their majority. When a chick becomes a full-grown bird, one can look after itself. Then the mother bird pecks it and doesn't allow it to come near her. Subjudge, well, what is the householder's duty to his wife? Master, you should give her spiritual advice and support her during your lifetime and provide for her livelihood after your death, if she is a chaste wife. But if you are intoxicated with the knowledge of God, then you have no more duties to perform. Then God himself will think about your morrow, if you yourself cannot do so. God himself will think about your family, if you are intoxicated with him. If a landlord dies leaving behind a minor son, then a guardian is appointed by the court, takes charge of the son. These are all points of law. You know them. Sub-judge, yes, sir. Right? So it's wonderful. He's saying, look, you guys know how you treat each other. You've got all these laws to protect everybody. All of these answers, you've already answered these questions in all of these other fields of questioning. These aren't different. These aren't different. What do you mean, how long do you have to take care of your kids? What are you asking? How long should I take? How do I take care of my wife? Don't hit her. Remember your anniversary. You know? But see, this is the thing. I mean, I guess really what we're talking about in a lot of different ways from a lot of different angles is spiritualizing our life. Understanding that we live in God, that we are inhabiting the very pure mind of the beloved right now, and that our life is carrying on here. And everything that we do is spiritual. Everything. And that's the trouble with us, is that we have forgotten that. And so this is not a making something different than what it is. This is seeing the moment for what it is. You are serving God with God. That spreadsheet that you decorated and made so nice was made of God, of Brahman. It was Brahman that became that paper, Brahman that became the colors, Brahman that became the, the printed sheet. It's like, begin to see these things, understand them. Once you start accepting them, then things start happening, right? Because the pieces start coming together. They start conspiring for your freedom. Things start moving quickly. All right, it's 5:30. Better stop there for the day. All right. Chima.